Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Largeness Blastiness podcast, the podcast about Warhammer and all things Warhammer 40,000. I'm your host, Stoney, and on today's hot and spicy episode, I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Matt.
Burn the heretic.
And my co-host, Welshie.
What's the Nash?
And today we're going to be talking about the dirty Xenos scum, the aliens of the Imperium and beyond. But we'd like to kick things off with a little something we call hobby progress, which you may have heard of before on other shows, but they obviously don't do it as good as they do right here on this hot and spicy episode of the Large Blast podcast. So, Welshie, do you want to kick us off? What have you been up to?
I have been, since 2 weeks ago we did the last one, I've been painting some of the armor panels, freehand armor panels, for my Acastus Knight, my big Forge World Knight.
Nice.
Which has been really nice because it's completely different from painting army. It's been a long time since I've tried to paint things onto a flat surface. But that's really nice.
Yeah.
I did lots of sketching in pencil on bits of paper that I'd cut to the same size as the panels. So I knew exactly what I was going to be painting on them.
Okay.
So that was really nice. Yeah.
So what kind of designs are you going for then on this big old knight?
So the whole knight is basically a rip-off of Rubens' The Fool, which is a Renaissance hellscape painting. I don't know, the year 14, 15, 1600, something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's your big kind of classic demons and fat naked bodies falling from the sky. So I started with the shins because the shin panels, if it gets dirty, if I mess up, I can kind of grime them up. Okay. They've gone all right so far, and then that's all the demons. And as you work your way up the armor, there'll be more kind of angels and heavenly stuff at the top. So,
yeah, they're looking really good. You should tell people where to see them on your Instagram.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, if you're interested and you're listening, check out meds_paints on Instagram if you want to see the ones I've done.
When you said you just painted the shins, I just thought you'd been round and painted just people's shins all over it. Just kind of, I was like, that's a funny place to start, but he's got it planned. So
yeah, it's very meta. It's shins on shins.
Because they're the front panels. Does he have armor on the back of his legs?
Yeah. So I've done I've now done 8 panels that are about 1.5 inches, 2 inches by about 1 inch. And there's 4 panels per lower leg. So those panels go all the way around, one on each side.
Oh, okay, right.
And then I'm slowly working my way up in the hope that I get a bit better as you get to the focal points on the model.
It's got curved shoulder pads.
Yeah, the curved bits are going to be more tricky because they're a bit less fat. The perspective might be a bit off. But I think the beauty with kind of why I picked the Renaissance stuff is all of those kind of bodies in the Renaissance, they're all a bit fat and jiggly and slightly off perspective. When Sanguinius came out and everyone was like, his spear hand's the wrong way around. Yeah. But that's you can get away with that a bit in that kind of old fashioned art.
That's it. They're like a fleshy sack of potatoes, some of those Michelangelo pictures and stuff, aren't they?
So that's been really joyous. And then I finished that and then knocked out the old metal bile as well this week.
Oh, yeah. Looking good.
Old man Pimp Kane.
Nice.
Painted him up, which was great.
Cool. A classic. Do you have plans on using him in your army, or is he now the new models come out and is so good, or are you going to go full old school?
I will use him as bile. I put him on the right size base. He's obviously a little bit shorter, but he doesn't look too out of place because, as we've talked about before, the model technology has got so much better. His Shuriken, the kind of surgery spider attached to his back in the metal model, is so big because they couldn't make it any finer. But actually, he doesn't look that out of size. Kind of fills up
the space.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. He kind of fits in. I posted a picture of him earlier with some of the mutated Emperor's Children that I've been working on, and he fits in quite well scale-wise. And I like the fact he's a little bit shorter anyway because he's such a grumpy
it's a classic model as well. It's nice to have him especially if you're using things like you've got a lot of those old school noise marines in there and things as well. So it's cool. He
should almost be shorter, shouldn't he? Because he's he's fairly untainted. He's mentally tainted, but his body is.
He's not even mentally tainted really by chaos. I've just started listening to the Fabius series, his own special audio book. It's fucking horrible. It's really dark. There's this bit I've just got to where they've gone to where the noise marines all hang out, and the apothecaries have constructed a stage that's built out of living human flesh. So the humans are all like melted together in agony, and they feed all of the sounds of them screaming into the organ pipes at the back of the stage.
Oh, cool. What audiobook is that?
It's called Progenitor. It's the first of the Fabius Bile trilogy.
Oh, so is that 30K or 40K?
40K.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really good.
So is this some of the new stuff where he's like stealing Death Guard things and stuff like that?
I don't think it's
some of the new series.
No, it's before that. It's not like right up to date with stuff, but it's quite cool. Like he can go in and out of the Eye of Terror, and because he hates all of the chaos stuff, he keeps having to have conversations with Emperor's children that have fallen properly to chaos and like stuck weird bits to him, and he's like, this is just ridiculous, what are you doing? I'm trying to make the perfect human race and all you guys are doing is fucking it up. It's it's good.
Fair play. Cool. Well, that leads quite nicely into what I've been doing, I guess. So I'll go next, which is I haven't been doing a whole lot of 40K stuff because there's been a milliput shortage where I live. So I've been scuppered on some of my previous plans. But I've been listening to the Eisenhorn book.
Oh, great.
I got that, and that's pretty good. So yeah, I'd recommend it if people are interested in 40K books. I'm sure I know we've recommended it before, but I'm listening to it now, so it's relevant to the show again. How
much did you love the bit at the start as he runs? Everyone's waking up from their cryo chambers, and he's just shooting them as they come out of their cryo chambers. Excellent. Yeah, no, I mean it is good. It's funny. It's got some. There's some parts about it which I wasn't really expecting in a way from like a 40K book. Like there's quite a lot of sex stuff in there, like not full on sex stuff, but just like referring to like, you know, sort of people being prostitutes and things, which is always like, you always just assume that Space Marines just got their dicks chopped off and that wasn't a thing anymore because it's so like kind of unreferenced in like a lot of the other like kind of Warhammer stuff that you think like, oh, maybe it's just like they just don't bother with it and it's not really something they want to put in the lore. But like I was like kind of surprised by some of the more like they made it a bit of a grittier world, you know.
It's still first person on the audiobook.
Yeah, it's got a guy, you know, like some guy pretending to be Eisenhorn and everything, which is quite cool. Dude, yeah. Like you can kind of tell that those books must be quite fun to write as well. Like there's definitely points where I'm reading it where I'm just like, this guy's just having a fucking laugh writing this, isn't he? He's just like, you know, because you get to do all that like crazy flowery like Renaissance writing and like really kind of turn it up to 12, you know. Yeah. So like I think that these guys because it's Dan Abnett, isn't it? That first one. Yeah. And you can really tell that he's having a good old time with some of those fancy phrases and stuff. I love. You'll get to the bits that I love most of the audiobooks. Now you're on the audiobook train, is they'll say a phrase that's one of the rules, and you go, "Oh God!" Like they'll say something like something like, "Oh, and he managed to survive because of his transhuman physiology," and you're like, "Oh, that's a rule." yeah, definitely. I can't remember. Yeah, there was. I've already heard something like that. They were like, he managed to look out Sir him and another wound save or something, and you're just like, well, that's a bit on the nose, but I like it. The Eldar jinked away. Yeah. I had a really good idea for you guys sent out the competition thing for that 28 mag, and they're doing this competition at the moment where to make like a model or a painting or something of someone that basically just lives in the 40K world. And I had a cool idea for kind of like a 40K like sort of scrap collector guy that I was going to make that sort of rode around on like a weird sort of like Dali like elephant with big long legs and was like had like a big hook and they was like in the water and he was like fishing out shit from water. Oh my God, Stoney, we've done it again, me and you. You've stolen my ideas again. No, it's already here. Look. I've started a sewer fishnet scrap man that's fishing shit out of a sewer. God damn it. For my 28 mag challenge. Is that your mate? Wow. Yeah. Oh well. Well, it's back to the drawing board then, I guess. I haven't got an elephant though. No. Well, yeah, I was definitely had like this idea for like the dude on the elephant was kind of the thing that I wanted to do, and then maybe I'll have to change him. He'll be doing something else, jousting or some shit. Who knows? But whatever. Yes, but like no milliput meant that was all fuckarood basically. So yeah. Anyway, Matt, what have you been up to?
I have been the usual, really. Lots of fantasy Bretonians, and I've just restarted building my Archaeopter. I think it's called the flyer for the AdMech that came out about 7 months ago, and it's sat unfinished, unpainted on my shelf of shame for 7 months, 6-7 months. And now I'm finally doing it again. The 28 mag thing as well, I haven't really thought of. I have a few ideas. One of them is a scrap metal merchant. But no. I think I'm going to do something with the whatever they were called, the history deletion squads that we spoke about last episode. I think they were quite cool.
Your knights have been looking great. I had a proper look at your Instagram because they've come out thick and fast, your pictures of your knights.
Yeah.
But the amount of different colours you get to play with on all those is great, and the patterns as well. So check them out on yours Instagram
yeah, thanks.
as well.
Rule Bretonia. Yeah. That's I think the appeal with that army is that it's an army. It's one of the very few armies where you can literally have any colours you want. And you have to tie it in if your bases have to be the same and whatever, but you can literally just all mix and match colors, and it looks, the more mixed and matched it is, the better it looks. Oh, and I've finished my God, what's the name? I'm gonna have to the Judith Erita.
Judith.
The sister of battle.
Yeah. She is finished.
Oh, nice.
And that was really fun to paint.
So how are you getting on with, a couple of shows ago, you were talking about, trying to get like one model done for every day of the year kind of thing. How's that getting along?
Well, I am trying to remember to record them, and I think I'm on about 12.
12 models, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, I think if I do a unit of 20 or 10 Sisters of Battle, say, or whatever, then I'll start racking them up again. So, not as much as I was hoping, but still, I'm pretty happy with the stuff I have done, and that's the important thing.
It's not bad. It's nearly a
Yeah.
quarter of where we are.
Will you be able to have a combined AdMech Sisters army for us to play when we're allowed outside?
Well, that's a good idea. This last 2 weeks, so since us almost starting in our last recording, really, I've been really desperate to play 40K more than any other time in the last year. Really need to play 40K.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Yeah. There's been some great missions in White Dwarf with these little campaigns. So I think when we do play again, it would be, I think I'd like to play a few smaller games with just my sisters.
Yeah.
But there's some quite cool scenarios in White Dwarf coming out recently, which is quite cool. But yeah, Sisters AdMech, ready to go.
Before we go into the next section, just wanted to give a shout out to Painting Dingo Zero at Instagram, who's been chatting with us, sharing some of his Underworld models that we love, the shadowy dark elf things, and his paint jobs looked really good on them. And also thank you to
really nice
Hobby Time at Healy's, who hosted one of my models, Conrad Kerr's model, said some really nice things and gave us at Large Blast podcast a shout out too. So if you want to watch some guys do a roundup of some great hobby stuff on Instagram, check out Hobby Time at Healy's on a Sunday afternoon and check out their Instagram.
The 70s.
The 80s. The 90s.
Ooh, we're going back in time.
Is that a space squad?
It's time we take you back with a blast from the past. Cool. So now we're going to do a new part of the show that we like to call the blast from the past, where we take an old model and we have a look at some of its history just for a quick 5 minutes or so. So, Matt, I think that you've got a model that you want to talk about, some of its history.
Yeah. So this is Macarius, Lord Commander Solar Macarius. Is this familiar to you guys?
No, I've never
not
heard
at all.
of him.
Not at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is like a classic Imperial Guard model. It's essentially the character is Alexander the Great in space. So, and it's quite interesting because he's a very big character in the Imperial Guard, but he was killed off. But you could still play him in some of the codices. But the model is quite funny, and the reason why I kind of remembered him is because of the new Blood Bowl. Because some of those guys in the box are quite similar to his kind of Baroque armor. It's quite cool.
So they're the kind of new human team,
Yeah,
whatever they're called. Yeah,
like the Empire team.
This image you've got in the background, Matt, that's got
Of
kind
the
of
Baneblade with
golden
him.
winged commander walking on the front of a
That's him.
Baneblade next to the cannon.
yeah,
It's
next to the
excellent.
Demolisher cannon.
What's that from? Is that from an old codex?
No. Well, there are a few books. I don't know when they came out. The model. So the model came out in 1997. I'm pretty sure. He was in one of the old Imperial Guard codexes. You could play him, but the lore has always killed him off. So he was always a character that had died. But he's quite interesting. He is a complete rip-off of Alexander the Great. So he went on a crusade for 7 years, which is the same as Alexander the Great, and he conquered 1,000 worlds. So it was like the most anyone had captured since the Emperor, essentially since the Great Crusades. But his protege turned to Nurgle, and he spent ages trying to beat him, and eventually he did. But then he supposedly caught a disease. But there are rumors that actually he was killed by an assassin, an Imperial assassin, because they wanted to have a hero who had died at his peak. And he may have had some Nurgle diseases.
Isn't that the same as Alexander the Great as well? Wasn't Alexander the Great killed? That wasn't some woman, his wife or his girlfriend or something, hired his assassination. This is racking my brain now, but
there is a woman involved somewhere, because one of the characters, I think it's 3 books about Lord Solar Macarius, goes into his history in more depth. But he was a character before the books. And in there's a planet, I think, or there's a campaign named after Alexander the Great's wife. But Alexander the Great died of a disease. His army went as far as India, Pakistan, and then they thought it was the end of the world, so they refused to go any further. And in 40K, the armies of Macarius, they stop at the halo stars on the edge of the galaxy, and they refuse to go any further. And basically he gets really upset that they don't want to go any further, and then he captures this disease, and then he's assassinated by an Imperial assassin.
Oh man, it's a bad week.
Yeah. But he.
So you're imagining him as Alexander the Great. Now you said he tries to extend the empire, stops, fails, and gets a bit ill. I'm thinking of him as Caligula. I'm thinking of a kind of kinky Caligula version of him.
Yeah, there's definitely something a bit Roman Empire about him. He's got this is custode before custodes. It's full on gold, like fucking. And actually, some of his armor is quite custody, to be honest. It's But there's a definite Greco
it's got
helmet.
It's
just quite interesting that they have this. They've always had a character who was always dead, and you could still play him in a game. There were rules and points, and he was in codices. This is a long time ago. And I couldn't think of another character like that, where he's in the setting, but he's already dead, but you could still play him.
Creed?
Well, Creed's only just died. Although, yes, I think he's still in the codex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Post Fall of Cadia, he's still
Post Fall of Cadia, yeah.
But he's not dead, because Trazin's got him in his garage.
Although it did, when I was looking this up, it did make, and nobody mentioned this online, but there's that rumor of what's he called, Trazin,
yeah,
having someone in there with Baroque armor, and a lot of people think It's
I think.
Oh, that really
done the
narrows it
transit.
down.
I know, yeah.
40K, that gives so much away. Yeah. Good tip.
But maybe he isn't dead.
I think the Trazin stuff says a space marine in Baroque armor.
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to be a Custodes.
But this guy essentially conquers he is basically a war master without having the title war master. And I thought he was from a long time ago, but actually he died in the 41st millennium, so he's quite recent in terms of the 40K lore.
Is he associated with a planet?
Yes, his birth world was renamed after him.
But he doesn't have an Imperial Guard. He's not one of the major Guard regiments.
Oh no, there's loads of different regiments that were fighting with him, but his planet, there's a planet named after him, which was his birth world. And there's his flagship is a museum ship in orbit of his planet, which is the only museum ship I've heard of in 40K, which I thought was quite bizarre, that there's war everywhere, but they can still have a battleship orbiting a planet.
Your history deletion team be all over that. That's gone. That's long gone, that history. Yeah, great. Great. I haven't never heard of him, but seems excellent.
Well, there you go. The first blast from the past there from Matt. Thanks very much. So go check out Lord Commander Solar Marchuranius, or whatever his name is. Check him out.
He's got a Forge World tank named after him.
Cool. So in this part of the show, we do a thing called the news, where we have a look at what's been going on. And so there's a rumor engine that's been going around recently. It's very nondescript, as they always are. And this is basically just some kind of dangly bit of a tyrannid, essentially, right?
I think you're massively underselling this, Stoney. This could potentially be the first new Tyrannid model in a very, very long time, potentially a Lictor. And I am extremely excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely a Tyrannid. Like, this is...
It can't be anything else, surely.
I think I know what it is.
What do you reckon?
I think they always rotate the image, don't they? So I reckon if you rotate the image just over 90 degrees, I think it is the top of a Teletubby. Like a Tinky Winky, like a Chaos Tinky Winky.
The internet is going to...
universes.
The Reddit is going to break if this isn't a Tyrannid. I'll say that and we can move on.
Yeah, move on.
So there's lots of previews from the Dead and Divine stuff to talk about. Tried to break them up amongst other bits, but the 40K stuff was quite short. Matt, do you want to take it away on this one?
It's like a woman with one of those baby makers on the front with a Sister Battle like a baby on her front. I can't remember what they're called. And she's silky black, like she's in latex. It's like a latex baby holder.
That's 10 seconds, yeah. So this is like a big robot with a baby holder featuring a Sister of Battle in the baby holder, but also operating it a bit like Krang from the Ninja Turtles. Imagine Krang from the Ninja Turtles as a baby on the front of a big robot, and that's kind of along the right lines. I think this model's really cool. And to be honest, like, I've always been super against the models with a dude strapped on the front, like that the Dread Knight, and then there's that really shitty new Primus thing that's like halfway between a Dreadnought, and like that thing looks fucking garbage. That really pisses me off. But this looks awesome. I really like this.
Yeah. And this was completely out of the blue. When this came up, we watched the preview, and when this came up, I was certainly completely blown away.
Matt was screaming, "Plastic Imperial Guard! It's going to be plastic Imperial Guard!" It was 3 minutes in, and we'd already seen the legs and the face, and he was still shouting, "Plastic Imperial Guard!"
It's quality. It's really cool. It's really cool. But her legs kind of disappear. They must go into the. They go into the legs, don't they? She kind of moves.
Yeah.
It's really
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it. I don't. I'm not entirely sure why, but I don't like it. I've seen some really good Photoshop conversions, like people do these days, where they change bits slightly in Photoshop. I think I like the idea of it. I like the concept. I think you're right, Stoney. I think it fits better than any of the other alternatives from this, possibly because of aliens, because it is basically like taken from that big yellow thing. But I just like, I think it's too slender.
You
for
see
a
that
robot.
Weirdly, that's what I like.
That's the thing I
about it.
like. Yeah, the
it's really
legs.
bizarre that that you'd say that as a bad thing, because one of the things that really pisses me off about the other mech suit things is they seem a bit too like. It's too bulky. It's kind of like the Space Marine one. It's like, what is the difference between that and a Dreadnought? The other thing that really pisses me off about the Space Marine one, whilst I'm on the rant, is it has ammunition and stuff. Like, it has a gun with ammo, and it's like, how did they not in the future? Like, so this guy has to reload his own massive like mech machine gun. Did they not think about putting it? Like, it just pisses me off. The whole thing about it pisses me off. It's like a joke. Whereas somehow this seems, it's like, feels more like it would have a function in battle. Like, it feels more like it would have a place. It's kind of like those, you know, like you see that people experimenting now with those weird legs that like will keep you walking up hills and stuff like that, you know. So I feel a bit better about this than I do about the other ones, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'd like to say I think it's nice, but it's for some reason it doesn't grow. I think partly maybe because the penitent engines and the mortifiers I love so much. Yeah, and I see this and I think of them, and it's not as good as those, possibly. Yeah. I'm not sure, but yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned the Photoshop thing as well, because I saw someone did a funny thing where they took off the whole top half, so it was just the woman with the massive legs, and that looks really funny.
Yeah.
They called her like
a new codex. It's got
they called her like Inquisitor Longstride or something.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That sounds excellent. And then the other 40k thing, we don't need to go too much into because we've already previewed all these models. But as we thought, the flayed ones will be coming out in a kill team box with the pointless Space Marine heavy intercessors that I just don't understand what their role is. So I'm glad I made my own flayed ones, if I'm honest.
Is that there's a Necro Cryomancer that comes with the box as well? Is that specific? Is that specifically to the box, that model, or is that something that is available for the rest of the Necrons?
All of the other boxes, stuff like that has come out. It's just come out a couple of months later. So I would hope it comes out individually, because I think that is an incredible model.
That does look like a cool model. So keep your eyes peeled for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Oh man, this is, if anyone out there has got White Dwarf 460, which is the January magazine, there's this great snippet in. Did you know there's a Titan owners club?
Like a sports car owners club.
Like an MG club. Yeah. But this is a worldwide club. But this, I've put in the picture. If you could probably Google this if you're listening, but there's a picture of lots of men around a big table, a mat on the floor, and they're playing Adeptus Titanicus at 28mm scale with their Forge World Titans.
Oh, wow.
I've got the magazine here. It says, we utilize a 52-foot by 16-foot bespoke battle mat with terrain in the form of a 28 siege wall and mountain ranges. I just saw that and I thought, that's fucking excellent.
This is insane.
Yeah,
in that they say that when it's your go, you have to walk into the battlefield to move your Titans around.
I would be terrified.
And there's knights. Backing up into the walls.
Yeah. It's like everyone's looking at you because it's your turn as well. You just come in and stamp on a Titan and your trousers fall down or something. No, this is crazy. This is kind of one of those things that you say would be cool as a kid, though. You know, it's like, I imagine playing Monopoly with real money or whatever. But then when you actually get there, I bet this was a drag of a day. This probably took about a week to take a turn. And there's a lot of gut in that room. It can't be an unflatulent room, I'm going to say.
Yeah. It says 61 Titans with the support from 38 Knights. They have 20-inch templates. It was just really cool.
Jesus,
that's what you've got to go to now. For those of you that might listen that have joined since 8th edition, the game of Warhammer, these are the lengths you have to go to now to use a blast template that we take our name proudly from.
Yeah, that's a large blast.
Oh man, we've got to tip our hat to them. I can see in this photo actually there is these like massive foam things in the corner that look a little bit like they might be templates. Either that or car wheels. It's hard to distinguish.
Amazing.
But okay, cool. Well, if you've got a Titan and you're really keen on that, then why not join the Titan Owners Club or whatever, and get yourself down here. There's a lot of money in that room, man. That's like that is crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Does it have to be a full Titan, Matt? Does it say, or can I join with my tiny Acastus Knight?
I don't know. You'll have to Google it.
Hey man,
I think
I reckon as soon as you own a Titan, you should be allowed into the Titan Owners Club. That's bullshit if you have to like.
Well, it's
fulfill
not
a quota.
technically a Titan because it's somewhere between a Titan and a Knight. I'll see if I can sneak us in. Don't worry.
Get the inside scoop.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So now we've got a bit of model spotlight, which is part of the show where we take a look at some of the new models that have been coming out, give you a little description of them. So hopefully you can understand what's going on. So we've got another model from the Sliveref, the Age of Sigmar, like mountain elf guys, and they're getting a bit furry with their designs now. So I don't know, who wants to give a 10-second of this?
I'll do it.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1, away you go.
Imagine the Luminef version of Tails from Sonic, but like it's been remastered for PS4, but it still looks absolutely bobbins, as Stoney would say, as it floats on a ridiculously out of. I just don't understand what that tornado is.
That's 10 seconds, and you're absolutely right. This is
crazy.
This is really strange. It's
Do you know? All it is there's a model like this with the Age of Sigmar Space Marines. What are they called? You know what they're called?
The Sigmarines.
Sigmarines.
The Sigmarines. Yeah,
that's what
it's
we
like
call them.
It's upside down, and it's the same thing. It's been out for a few years.
Oh yeah.
With
all the books and stuff flying around him.
All this is they've turned it upside down and put a cow person on it.
Oh, he's not a cow. I did have to look this up earlier.
Oh right.
It is a fox person. It's
What?
a fox. It's a fox elf
got massive horns
with a cow face.
You see, I wonder. We kind of talked about these Silveref, Severiv, whatever the guys.
They're called Luminef, but this guy,
Luminef.
this guy is called Severef, and he is the Lord of the Seventh Wind.
Okay, well,
this is for
these
Zelda
guys,
players.
Yeah, I mean that's just it. Is we kind of talked about this before about them like trying to redesign elves maybe for like a modern age, and I wonder if maybe we're just like too old for this model now in a way because it's kind of got like a lot of things that like modern sensibilities like you know the cute furriness and the fox ears and that kind of shit, as well as keeping that kind of classic elfiness. So maybe we're just too old and bitten to enjoy this model, but it is gubbins. It is fucking gubbins.
I think in the last episode, I'd said that we were looking at the same range of models, and I was imagining. We said, "Oh, young Matt, when he walks past the window of Games Workshop, would like those models were so cool. They would take the new paint range really well." I think, that's absolutely kind of the point I was trying to make, was that it goes way over our heads, and we probably can never change that. But for people who aren't familiar with Warhammer, they probably look at those models and think, "Wow, it's so cool."
I mean,
and
that's
in terms of a model, it's quite.
I mean, technically it's very sound, and to be honest with you, the kind of the actual kind of fox's kind of jump. Kind of silhouette, the kind of position of it kind of jumping is pretty cool, but it's just the kind I just can't get behind it as a whole. It's just like we say, just too old, too jaded. Like, you know, it's not an orc or a space marine, so I don't like it.
Yeah, sure.
So the other things we have are some more endless spells, which are for the Daughters of Cain. So I don't think I've done a description this episode, so I'll do a 10-second of these. Count me in.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, everything's dripping with blood. You got the hand holding the heart. You got like a crazy snake, and you got like a bunch of knives just flying through the air. All separate models, I should say. 3 of them. Yeah, they look pretty.
That was pretty good.
Aww.
3 models in one there, Stone.
Yeah. Well, they're pretty kind of basic to describe. The big snake thing's pretty cool. They're all dripping with blood.
Pretty cool,
yeah.
The big snake thing's pretty cool. To be fair, my least favorite model out of them is the knives that are flying through the air. But at the same time, as a spell, that would be pretty cool. It's just like you just got this fucking endless spell that's just a bunch of knives flying around. That's pretty fucking cool.
Could that snake not have its head cut off and become a special character in your Slanesh army?
I think it's ripe for conversion, that snake. Yeah, I've been thinking about it.
What you could do is put a demonette on the back and use it as one of the chariots.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
If you use that, that's another Stony idea. Trademark Stony.
Got it out there first. I couldn't possibly take it down.
That's how trademarks work, right? You just say it.
And then there's even more models. We can run through these ones quickly because we already said how much we love the vampire models previewed a couple of weeks ago. But these are just 3 more from the Diachasm Underworlds game, and they just look great.
They're so good.
Yeah. So just more of the vampire guys that they really nailed last time with that cool vampire lady who hopefully you guys have you've probably seen all these models by now, to be fair.
Yeah. These models are just for the size they are, they're just so good.
Yeah, they are amazing. And you know, I mean, we've talked about posing and stuff before, and you just get such a feel for each of these guys. It's just great. I mean, they really feel like a cool war band with their own individual characters and personalities, and I mean the armor as well. The armor that they've got is cool as shit. Like if you're a dark elf player, I mean, we talked about hacking stuff up, but you know, I'd be looking at these. I'd be looking at unbelievable. The new section of the show, hack it up, is where we get a couple of models and we say hack the fuck out of them, and this is definitely a
well, we said
Yeah,
we said in the preview, like these are Inquisitors,
Slanesh guys, like
Dark Eldar. They're so many things.
Yeah, if you got some Necromunda or something, you could probably slip some of these guys. You know, change them up, slip them in there. Yeah.
The thing I really like about this vampire range so far is how Games Workshop's drawn on like all the various aspects of kind of vampire culture. You've got the kind of sexy count. You've got the full-on Nosferatu guy with the mace that looks like he's straight from Nosferatu. And then you've got the real kind of noughties, Van Helsing, winged creature. And I love it when they do that. They kind of roll in a little bit of everything that goes with vampire rather than just going down one stylistic choice.
Yeah.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, no, very good. More wins for Games Workshop.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've got a quick game for you because Dark Angels are getting a big release soon. You might have seen Matt's excellent chaplain on the Instagram. Before we have a look at some of the rules and maybe get a bit negative, let's just put ourselves in the shoes of a Dark Angels player. I've got in front of the guys here a picture of Azrael and Ezekiel. Or Ezekiel, not sure how you pronounce it, the Supreme Chapter Master and the Master of Librarians. These 2 models are still available to buy from Games Workshop. Can you guys tell me the year that they came out? These models have not been updated and are still able to buy.
I think 94.
So
no,
I'm
going 95. 95.
I think that's a very good guess. I've got Azrael. I've got the one on the left with the little watcher in the dark. It's such a cool
the
model.
carrier. That's one of the coolest little sidekick dudes ever. Is the guy just carrying the helmet like that model on its own? Like you could slip that into. I mean, if they re-released the Azrael model and just put that, you could just put that guy straight back in with him, and it would look cool as shit. So, yeah.
So, what am I going to say? Well, I don't know if I can remember them being in my 2001 catalogue. I'm sure they're older than that. So what did you say, Stoney?
I think it's 95.
So I'll go 1997.
Stoney, you are bang on the money. 1995/6.
I remember when that Dark Angel Codex came out and all my friends started collecting them almost instantly because the models were so fucking awesome. Yeah,
these are great models and like still available to buy. I guess they're shite cast now.
So Ezekiel came out in 1995.
1995.
That
these 2 came out together with a as metal, it would have been in 1995.
Yeah, definitely. And it was they had the Deathwing. Well, they're old now, but the kind of the Deathwing Terminators got a redo, and they had all those feathers and everything on them. The detail at the time, people were fucking blown away by that.
Yeah, I think they're great models. That's why I wanted to put them up because I think perhaps if you're a Dark Angels player, you might be a bit upset that these guys haven't been updated in a long time. You know, like Bile got his update, and he was in 1997 when I looked at that model the other day.
Yeah.
And instead they got this random Chapter Master Lazarus model, which is a cool model, but maybe you might feel that your main guys should have got a bit more love. But
I mean, you know, they all, you know, lots of people got Chapter Masters in lots of factions did. So they've just got this new Chapter Master, this Lazarus guy, who's kind of fairly generic. He's got the helmet and stuff like that with the wings on and things. But yeah, people might be a bit upset. But if they've got a big release coming, you would have thought these models are primed for.
You'd hope so, but it didn't come. They didn't combat patrol box.
They're not going to, really. They're not going to do it.
Just a shout out to a listener as well, Jimmy Big Nuts, who was telling me how he'd been converting some of these models to make them kind of Primaris scale recently. They look really good. If I can get a picture off of him, we'll put it on the Instagram.
Good. All right, there you go, Jimmy Big Nuts. Check him out on Instagram.
The Dark Angels Codex then is primed for a nerf, and it's not even out until Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been following these rules, Matt and Stoney, but they are fucking ridiculous. Codex creep we like to try and avoid moaning about, but I couldn't resist this week. Just to try and summarize what is a crazy slide we're looking at of mental rules. They have psychic powers which essentially negate the most important things in the opponent, i.e. all of their aura abilities, which are the linchpin of every army at the moment. They have psychic powers which negate people's control of objectives, and the game is entirely about controlling objectives. And then they also have ways to build their armies which are really thematic. Deathwing and Ravenwing can have their own detachments, but when they get their own detachments, everything Terminator in Deathwing gets objective secured. Everything Bike in Ravenwing gets objective secured. And also, if you're under the Ravenwing Bike army heading, +3 inch to movements. You can advance and shoot, and then there's a strat for a further 12-inch movement.
Fucking hell.
You're moving like 30 inches plus turn 1 with massive squads of bikes with objectives secured.
Objective secure, yeah.
To objectives.
Plus, you're making other people not get their objectives and stuff. Yeah, that's a bit like got a bit of a win button. Yeah,
this has got the Nerf bat written all over it, I think. Which is a shame because it's all really thematic. You can see they've put a lot of thought into it. So,
do you think that maybe there's like, as there's not many people in the office at Games Workshop at the moment, some guy that's just like mad keen on Dark Angels just slid in all these new rules into the.
There's a few of them, I think, aren't there, that are always on the.
Yeah, Adam Thorpe is.
Adam Thorpe.
Yeah, that guy. Part of me feeling like I've really wanted to play in the last 2 weeks, particularly, I've also felt like I'd forgotten how to play. So when I was trying to kind of read some of this stuff, I couldn't, in my head, I couldn't evaluate how powerful it was. So I've watched a few videos on it, and I've seen a few where people have compared them to some of the new Death Guard Terminator, and it seems like they're pretty balanced. It's always a double-edged sword, isn't it? Like if you have a big unit or any unit size of bikes and you drive them up half the board and you are outside of your bonus ranges and then you're not in cover and then you're on your own, your opponent can just shoot all those bikes.
I think you're right. I think lots of the new rules we're seeing seem OP compared to everything without a new codex. But thinking about things like the fact that First Company and Ravenwing can now get objective secured. I mean, the Nihilak dynasty for Necrons, everything in the entire army gets objective secured. So there are ways, there are ways of doing, like, I think other things that we've seen so far have certainly able to match some of these things. It's just a while since we've seen able to take everything together.
Do you think that sometimes a lot of the feedback and thing comes in from people playing 40K, and just at the moment there's just not that many people playing 40K and being able to test these rules and be like, hey, you know, this is kind of fucked or whatever.
And that's before we've even mentioned fire discipline as well, which needs a mention, which is essentially all infantry can shoot assault and rapid fire weapons in combat.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, but also I thought that was
mad.
quite thematic. As you say,
Very
that's quite thematic.
But it's mental.
That's what Space Marines should be able to do in their power armor. They should be able to just ignore the little grots in front of them and machine gun them down.
I always thought it was funny that, like, if you didn't buy a Space Marine like a combat weapon, he just had a knife, and that was like what he was like. When you get getting into hand-to-hand combat, you'd be like, "Fuck that! I'm still gonna shoot him." Like, fuck the knife.
I think the first FAQ we'll get, it'll be on that fire discipline, and it will be: can the ballistic skill of 5+ in combat be modified? Yes or no?
They have I can't remember. There's a rule. I don't know whether it's I think it's a stratagem where you stop the amount of your opponent's models that can fight you in the fight phase. It changes. Wow. It changes. You know, there's the rule now where anyone within half an inch can fight.
Yes,
and then
you're
anyone
right.
Within
It's called something like hold the line. And so only models touch it. Only models within half an inch can fight, rather than models within half an inch of a model within half an inch. So it basically means my Tyranids are down to 1 rank.
Yeah, so that's
and then
massive.
They're getting shot with bolters.
Yeah.
And then they're all dead.
So it's a real anti-horde thing. It's very powerful.
Bring on that Tyranid release and the new codex. That's all I can say. And then the last of all of the preview stuff is this amazing new Warhammer Quest game called Cursed City.
Yeah.
These
well.
So we are at the moment we're creaming over pictures that you can't see. So making some good
YouTube,
radio.
The pictures will be there.
Yeah, the pictures will be on YouTube for you to cream over as well. But like, should we do a 10-second of description? Do we think we can do it justice? I mean,
I think we should just talk about because they're.
We'll just talk briefly. I'll just give you. So what the first guy is a kind of a very Van Helsinki type guy. He's got a kind of a stake launcher. He's got these cool stakes and a gun with a stake in, and the classic pilgrim hat and the hammer. Everything that you'd expect from a kind of puritanical Warhammer fantasy guy, but just really turned up to the max. And this model is crisp as fuck. Like, one of the things that's really like the attention to detail on this, the fine edges and everything, like they're really sharp. It's so good. I know that it's too early to say model of the year, but if this came out last year, this would be my model. I know, but this I said that about this, I think, though, didn't I? No, about the other thing. All right, well, cool. I'm just getting ready, guys. You've got to get ready for these things. You know. Anyway, well, this is my new model of the year.
See, I'd go Gorslav Gravekeeper. He's my model of the year.
Well, the other model that comes out with this game is the Gravekeeper guy, who's like just a fucked up looking Gravekeeper man with a bunch of bones strapped on his face over his eyes, and he's got a cool hook pulling up a bit of a grave and a cool sort of arrowhead.
It's the first genuinely scary Games Workshop model I've seen in a long time. Genuinely, if I was a kid, I'd be scared. The one I always think of is the Morgul, the one that's just like a body with massive arms that's like on the top.
Oh yeah, that's horrifying.
This is
he's just like eating a dude. Yeah, this is very cool. I mean, the sort of the bones out of nowhere and stuff, like kind of weird headdress and things. It's cool because it's quite a simple model, really. There's not like these aren't really over designed. You know, both of them. They don't have loads of stuff hanging off them. They're just the right amount, and just everything's just spot on. Very cool models.
So true. And so the vampires we were looking at before and these two models have all got their feet on the ground.
Yes. Bonus.
Yeah, no random bits of
It's amazing. They're so good.
In space, no one can hear you scream or gurgle or bark or whatever noises aliens make. So as if the future wasn't bad enough with all the war and servitude and things, there's also different aliens that aren't necessarily covered in the Warhammer 40,000 main lore that we want to take a look at. So some of the lesser known alien races, flora and fauna, if you like. So Welshie, I think that you've got interesting species you wanted to talk about right here.
Yeah, and that's the Hrud. Now, I've mentioned the Hrud in passing before, but I think they are one of the most interesting Xenos species that's kind of always been in the background, right from 30K through to 40K Black Library books and lore, and is mentioned in lots of things. And they're a bit cryptic for reasons we'll see. So essentially, they're called the Hrud. Their official species name I found was called Troglydium hrudii, which sounds a bit Welsh, doesn't it? It sounds like a Welsh language. And all that's really known officially in Imperial lore is that they're kind of a subterranean species with some kind of strange biological ability, which gives them this surrounding entropic field. So they can essentially manipulate entropy, which is the physical system that states that everything falls apart. So they can accelerate, not decay, but kind of atomic redistribution and falling apart, everything going to chaos in its very physical sense rather than its warp sense. So they have these really interesting ways of fighting where they have weaponry that can kind of come in and out of existence. And then these shields that if anyone gets close to them, they just age, like opposite Benjamin Button, just really, really quickly. And there's these encounters that have happened, engagements in the 41st millennium, where 6 full regiments of Valhallan ice warriors were sent to a planet that had been infested with Hrud, and half of them came back having aged to essentially death. They lost 50% of there's 3 entire regiments just because of this effect that these Hrud have.
So they left the station busting like new trap music out of their spaceship and came back with a bit of Springsteen.
That's right. They were Springsteen all the way. And these guys, no one really, the thing that I think is really interesting in the lore about them is because of this distortion and entropic field around them, there's very few kind of eyewitness accounts in the lore about what they actually are. And it's a great example of where they've used things like that to obscure bad canon. So if you look in the 3rd edition rulebook, the Hrud are drawn as what looks like space Skaven. So the Skaven have always been missing from 40K.
Yeah.
And in 3rd edition, they were drawn as kind of cloaked, rat-tailed things with long guns and rifles and things. And that's definitely developed now into one of the Black Library books, the Primarch book for Perturabo. There's this brilliant fight where most of the book actually is the Iron Warriors trying to eradicate a Hrud planet in the 31st millennium, and they fall prey to the Hrud migration, and it basically destroys loads of the Iron Warriors. They can't beat the Hrud. The entire planet decays, and the Hrud just kind of move like ants. You know, when you see ants destroy like entire tracts of rainforest. And it's part of what breaks Perturabo in the end is that they keep going up. They keep trying to build and break down walls and fortify their defenses, and they just keep falling apart, and he can't get his head around it. They're really interesting from that respect. And then also their beliefs are pretty interesting too. Like they kind of meld with some of the really esoteric god lore of 40K. So I was looking at some of their beliefs, and they have a god called Ka, which is referred to as, this will make you laugh, he who lingers, like a bad kind of fart, their entropic god, just kind like of hangs around.
Like an annoying dealer that won't get out your house after he's sold you a stuff.
Exactly. Or someone who comes to stay, But he seems to be like the Nurgle old one. So he's this kind of god of decay, but he's one of the old ones, like the Eldar gods. So these guys have been around for a long, long time. And apparently it was Slaanesh. When Slaanesh was born, he killed Ka, the Hrud's god. So there's this kind of god, and he wasn't killed, he was shattered like the Catan into these things called Umbra shadows, which hang around outside Webway gates. So there's this kind of idea, and I wondered what you thought it might be, that there'll be a kind of messiah thing with the Hrud, where Ka reforms, and it says that they all believe he'll return to defeat the Yam-Ko, but nowhere does it say what the Yam-Ko are.
Ah, yeah.
So there's this big god missing in 40k lore, set to return.
I mean, these are the lore equivalents of those rumor engine photos, where they just give you a little piece and they're just like, let you kind of figure it out. It is kind of the change in them, like you say, is interesting. Like I've seen a lot of alternative model companies sort of mess around with the idea of Skaven in 40k, and there's definitely people that are, cool. There's definitely people that are into that. It's kind of surprising that it wasn't something that was like filtered in, because Skaven feel a bit more like an original Games Workshop IP than some of the other more classic fantasy stuff. So it's funny that it wasn't taken in when they made 40k.
I was when I was doing a bit of reading for the Xenos special. When I read that, I thought, that's quite a good idea, actually. Buy an old Skaven army on eBay and just turn it into an Imperial Guard regiment.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I follow a guy on Facebook who's got a Facebook group called Proper Ratkin of the 41st Millennia, where he just is making like a massive Skaven army. Some of it is fucking wicked, so that's worth checking out.
Well, I have, inspired by this, actually just bought the Hellpip Abomination.
Oh, yeah.
Old, which I'm going to convert to a Lord Discordant for my Slanesh army.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to have him like riding the back, and obviously make it a little bit more techno than the Skaven. But
so it's just like a sack of skin full of like people having an orgy kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the Hrud. If you're interested in learning more about them, the best stuff I've read is in the Perturabo Primarch's book. Check it out.
Cool. Hrud, your first of new aliens Xenos species.
Okay, guys. I've got the next one. The Fraal first. The Fraal. Anybody heard of these lot?
I haven't actually.
I have not. The Fraal.
The Fraal.
There's no pictures, just pictures of their warships. The reason for that is because they appear in the lore in the Battlefleet Gothic game, not the computer game, the actual board game, and they are very mysterious, kind of like the Hrud. Nobody really knows that much about them. Anybody who does is killed by the Inquisition. They're only really known in terms of their warships in space, but it is rumored that they have a interstellar empire in the Segmentum Obscurus, kind of where the Gothic sector is, hence why they're in Battlefleet Gothic. And their warships are very powerful, so they are potentially more advanced than the human civilization in 40k. And whenever they are met, they tend to just almost kind of be a bit nomadic. So there's never too many of them, but they kind of win wherever contact is made with them. So the Inquisition do try to silence anybody who does see them, essentially. So nobody knows what they look like, and that's reflected in the lore, where there's there's no images of them other than fan-made art.
Did they produce models for them for Battlefleet Gothic, or were they just in the book?
As far as I know, I think they were just artwork. Right. I'm sure it's just artwork. I think they were just in the lore, like you get lore in the 40k rulebook. It's just like that, just a bit of extra fluff. I don't know where the quote's from, but they are in the Horus Heresy. There's a quote in one of the books where they're reflecting on an earlier stage of the Great Crusade, and the salamanders and the word bearers, they have to fight them, and they try to make them fall into compliance. And I think upon reflection, they were saying that they were good fighters. They obviously still exist in the 41st millennium, so they weren't beaten by the Space Marine legions, which is pretty cool.
Really fringe.
Yeah. Yeah, they are like fringe, aren't they? They're just kind of they're there, but nobody really knows much about them. But maybe that is something that would get looked into more when there is another Battlefleet Gothic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe in the computer game, I know they've expanded the lore quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So for my minor race, I was going to do the squats, who I thought was interesting because they've kind of essentially been written out. They made an appearance in the original Rogue Trader as a collectible race, but then were kind of backpedaled on by Games Workshop. Squats are described as being short, stocky, and tough, and abhumans. They're about 1.4 meters tall and are basically just space dwarfs from fantasy. Used to be humans that flew out on their own and started living on this series of planets that had really high gravity, and they were miners, and they, classic space dwarf type fare. They had their lore is pretty hacky as well. They had 5 eras of lore. Their founding age, their age of isolation. So in the age of founding is where they all went out and kind of became squats, essentially. The age of isolation is when they got cut off from the rest of mankind. Then the age of trade, they started dealing with the elder, started getting chummy with the elder, classic dwarfs. Traitors. And yeah, exactly. Well, that's coming up. That's how hacky this is. They start making chums with the elders and trading technology and stuff. And then the age of wars, where Tyranids show up and the scummy elder don't come and help them out, so they get all pissed off. I know. But then the age of rediscovery, which is basically what coincides with the Great Crusades and in the Imperium timeline, is where they get rediscovered, and Imperium help them out with the Tyranids, and essentially they decide to join the Empire and make choose the Emperor as their god. But it was all seen as kind of essentially pretty hacky by the designers. They never quite got it right. They actually kind of said that they were embarrassing. A quote from one of the designers I've got here is, "We took a proud and noble race from fantasy and made them into a joke." And another one is, "We called them squats. Squats. What were we thinking?" So, I mean, you can see that this kind of turned into a bit of a joke race. But for, me, I like to look at things from kind of like a model design point of view and things. They just felt that they weren't working the way they envisioned them on their head on the battlefield and things.
How wrong they are.
Well, they did. Where they felt they did work. It was quite interesting what you were saying about this Battlefleet Gothic stuff, about how some things work better in different games, because they were saying that they really wanted to keep them in initially because that they had Epic, that big scale game, and they said that that really captured these big war machines and kind of stuff that they would make, classic kind of dwarf tinkering, but on a 40K scale, which is what they really wanted them to be, rather than on the battlefield they were just kind of like dudes in dune buggies that cruised around, sort of orc horde army style, and were just a bit shit. They writ them out very unceremoniously by just kind of saying, "Oh, they were all eaten by Tyranids." That's literally essentially what happened.
Really?
There was no, that was what it was. That was where they went. They were just done. They were just gone. And then
I know they killed them off, but I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, they did. They just got them out of there. But what's interesting about them is, especially with these kind of, because they've got that new model for Necromunda and stuff, which, and with the Zote and things, which is kind of, now it feels like Games Workshop is retconning the retcons that it retconned in the past, by kind of saying like nothing ever really left the Games Workshop canon. We're not sure quite how it fits in, but squats do still exist, Zotes still exist. So I think that's quite interesting. I thought what's quite interesting as well is how initially in the Rogue Trader, one of the armies they wanted to make was a Slan army. And I don't know if you guys know about the Slans as a race. Yeah,
frog aliens.
From fantasy, which weren't an army in fantasy at the time, and because they the Slan were kind of essentially the old ones, essentially, and they kind of like, were the guys that kind of set everything up and set the Eldar up and all of this kind of stuff. And it's just funny to see these ideas, how they kind of initially developed to kind of what they became, because it does feel that like that squats aren't necessarily completely out of the picture in terms of another army that Games Workshop would produce.
Do you think they would though?
Top. Yeah, they've got to be.
I'm thinking like PC wise, if they bring back a whole army of
I don't think they'd call them squats. They'd
people.
call them like,
Squat.
well, they'd call them like a
It's-
starter squattus or something like
It's
that.
the,
You know?
Yeah.
What are those? What are the new dwarf people in Age of Sigmar?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of those sort of
They've
steampunk
done-
ones. Looking at that army, you kind of wonder if maybe that was initially pitched as a new squat army,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then it just
yeah,
got
yeah,
like
yeah,
changed,
could
and
be,
you know,
yeah.
kind of. You know, I mean, I think with some of the things that Games Workshop are pulling on from the past, I know it's still quite unlikely, but if there was going to be a new squat release at some point, I wouldn't. It's not totally out of the range of possibility, in my opinion, or at least like a small unit or something that you might get. So, yeah.
I never knew that they were linked to humans.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm glad has been retconned in Games Workshop, but like the olden day kind of philosophy of Games Workshop was everybody essentially started off as kind of like a big white man and then was transformed by the planet they moved to, you know, which is kind of a bit weird. And I'm quite glad that that got has been sort of changed in something that would be. So if they were to introduce squats or whatever it was they were going to call them in the future, like they would have to kind of have a bit of a long, hard look at some of that stuff, definitely.
Yeah, they should be like a completely alien race, because otherwise they're like ratlings.
Ratlings still. I'd like to see a new Ratling kit. That'd be great. Although they're in Blackstone Fortress, aren't they as well?
Yeah,
but I wouldn't see them bringing back squats as them retconning, because they could say like a star system was like lost in the warp, and
I think that's the clever thing, like we said about the history and stuff, is that it leaves all of these explained gaps.
And if you need to destroy a planet in the 40K lore, they're pretty disposable. You can get rid of one and just move on.
Get rid of Birmingham, that's what I say.
Yeah. No, never. I'll be fucked if they get rid of Birmingham. It's the only lore I know.
I'm just thinking what you're saying about the Slan and then the Zotes. What if the Zotes are like the Slan, right? They're like the first bit, the Slan, because the Zotes come, the Tyranids come from a different galaxy.
Yeah. I was thinking this the other day.
Are Slan in another galaxy.
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, that's part of the beauty of it, isn't it? Is that you know, you can make it whatever you want. Get excited, everybody. It's the random topic generator, the part of the show you will clamour for every week, where we roll the company dice, which I believe Welshie has upon his person right now.
Of course, here they are.
And we roll it to determine a random
It's
topic.
a 3. Is
3.
the Emperor a god? And if so, what's he the god of? I.e., you've got
this is
change, you've got
tailor-made to Matt.
sexiness, you've got decay. What is the Emperor a god of, if he is one of the pantheon?
Sit back and relax and prepare for a lecture from Matt.
I for the last few years, I think the Emperor is the chaos god of order.
Poor. Okay.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I was thinking about this morning because I was listening to or reading up on a few things, and I think what makes me even in the last few weeks think this even more is the fact that when Gulliman goes back to see the Emperor, so he's awoken, he fights his way back to Terra, he goes into the room in the Golden Throne and he sits with the Emperor for 2 days, and he comes out and he doesn't say anything. There has been some Black Library books since then, and the insinuation is that the Emperor communicates somehow with Gulliman and essentially tells Gulliman that they are not his sons, and that the Primarchs were just a tool to achieve his ultimate goal, and that Gulliman feels that the Emperor is no longer human, and that the Emperor has become the god that people think he has. He's lost his humanity.
That's really interesting. Where's that conversation with Gilliman and the Emperor?
Well, it's in, you know, they brought out the 3 triumvirates.
Because that is interesting, because in Master of Mankind, in the Horus Heresy series, there's a dialogue and the Emperor says that to Malcador. There's this great scene where the Emperor's like, I don't know why anyone thinks they're my sons. Like, I'm glad they do, but I literally couldn't care less about them. They're just tools for me. So if Gilliman's found that out, that is interesting, because that's definitely seeded in the past.
I've heard that from people telling me that that's the thing. From various, because there's been Black Library books set since Gulliman has gone to see the Emperor, and it's him kind of describing how he feels about that. And I kind of thought, like, in a way, Gulliman is becoming what the Emperor could never be. Like, Gulliman is the Emperor. Gulliman is a human emperor, and that's because the Emperor isn't he's not like a human. He's a psychic being. He's the god of order,
so
which would
Gilliman
explain
kind
all
of
his powers.
is more of a god by living up to the ideals of the Emperor rather than that kind of do as I say rather than as I do sort of thing.
Maybe one that's more relatable,
human.
more relatable.
Yeah.
Gulliman is like the Emperor as a human, whereas the Emperor was a god. So he's like everyone. Yeah. So whereas in actual fact, the Emperor is almost like he's
a bit like his Jesus.
Yeah.
That's all well and good, Matt, until the lion returns, because he's basically the same but sexier. So,
but I just think that'd be so cool if they. Although maybe it wouldn't, because
it's
that would just
interesting
destroy
though
the universe.
that you've gone to like chaos level gods, and there are all of these other gods, like we mentioned with the other stuff, like the Catan kind of, and then the old ones before them, that maybe the Emperor is even older. I've always kind of had this inkling that if like maybe he's the god of war, because a lot of the Eldar and the old ones gods, they're more like the kind of Greek and Roman pantheon. The way that everything's panned out, we have endless war. And that could potentially, they could have just set up a situation where, in the grim darkness of the future, there is only war, and the Emperor's loving it whilst he's like floating through the water.
Okay, well, I'm going to pitch my theory, which I think that you both have touched on in both of your descriptions, which is I think he's the patron saint of bad dads. Where basically he's just like, in some ways it's interesting what you're talking about, Matt. We know you've given this a lot of thought. Like, maybe he was this kind of like Horace type character that was kind of tricked by power in a way himself, and kind of but either way, the one thing that we can all agree on is the way, when you have kids, anybody out there that's thinking about having 12 little babies in your care, don't just put them on 12 random different buses and just let them come back in 20 years and see how they've been doing, It
is like the best twins study. You always read about these twin studies that separated at birth and put under different conditions. It's that. There's loads of that in the Siege of Terror stuff. I've just listened to Fury of Magnus, which is the latest Siege of Terror. And you get to, it's the final days of Magnus when he breaks into the palace and faces Vulcan in front of his dad on the throne. It's really good. And there's loads of that in there as to like, I could have been. And there's an offer. Oh boy, the offer the Emperor makes Magnus. You got to listen to it.
No, really, does he?
Oh boy, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Hot and spicy.
Yeah. Hot off the press.
Cool.
Good.
Well, I think that we've pretty much covered that. If
Solved.
you've got any views on the Emperor, make sure you send them in to one of the various ways you get in contact with the podcast.
This is what I call the zip zap rap.
Right. So I've got a second Xenos that I couldn't resist talking about, because I think that they are possibly some of the worst 40K models that exist, but they also have a really weird special place in my heart because I think they look so silly and lovable. And it's the Vespid Stingwings, and the name is so bad it basically sums them up.
These are bad models.
Oh man, they're awful. So I thought I'd actually look them up and find out a bit about them, right? So they work for the Tau. If you haven't seen a Vespid Stingwing and you're not watching on YouTube, look them up because they are awful. They're hired by the Tau Firecast as a kind of auxiliary flying shock troops, because the planet they come from, planet Vespid, is a high-pressure, storm-ridden planet of floating rocks. So we're in real, like, Avatar Cameron territory with these rocks floating through the atmosphere that the Vespid burrow into and live in like big floating rock beehives. And they apparently they just joined immediately. So the Tau just arrived and went, "Hey, do you want to join our super cool communist gang?" And they were like, "Yeah, cool." because they didn't
that's
have.
a really bad sign if they're just like, yeah, we got nothing going on.
They had like no major cities or stuff. I think they must have seen the Tau and thought, yeah, I want some of that technology, because they're conscious and they could talk and stuff. So they joined the Tau, and the Tau Earth cast designed their guns, which are called neutron blasters. And this is where it just gets even more like kind of manga style. The neutron blasters that the Earth cast made are powered by a secret crystal of the cloud seas from Vespid that coalesces in the clouds and is then mined and put into the guns. It's just all really bad lore.
Oh man, when did
Are
these
they-
models? Do you mind me? Sorry to interrupt you, but when did these models come out?
I remember when these came out.
Go for it, Matt, because I couldn't find an exact date.
I think these came out in 2003.
I would say, because these are the most early 2000 things that I've seen in a while. Like, you could just imagine the guy being like, yeah, it's like an alien that's got wings, but they're like pointy wings, and it's got a ray gun. Oh yeah, turn up the fucking Papa Roach, dude. My wallet chain just got stuck in my chair.
Papa Roach, you can imagine these.
These are the most Papa Roach models I've seen for a long time, man.
Perhaps the designer misunderstood and thought he was designing a character called Papa Roach. And he was actually just listening in the background.
Or like, Todd McFarlane, right?
Yeah.
And like, I always imagine the way he designs characters, like he's just like, yeah, it's got like 2 horns, but then it's got like a 3rd horn coming out. He's just like, everything's up to like 11. And I reckon that this guy that did this just did the same fucking thing.
Maybe some cocaine fuel.
Are they still in the Codex?
They're still in the Codex. Yeah.
Really?
Right. They're actually quite well respected by the Firecast. Whereas apparently, and we'll save this for the next minor Xenos because there's so many, but the Tau really hate the crew. They think they're savages because the crew have been seen to eat bodies of things that they kill and stuff. But the Vespids seem to be quite well respected and necessary, I suppose, because the Tau can't do anything in close range. If you get close to a Tau's gun, it's dead.
Yeah.
And they're really used a lot on kind of ships and the big kind of floating cities in space that the Tau have, because they can withstand low gravity and toxic environments and stuff. And then the last thing I saw is that they also have 3 sets of eyes. And again, this is just such hammy lore. They've got 3 rows of 2 eyes. The top row can see in UV, the middle row can see in the visible spectrum, and the bottom row can see in infrared. It's like someone's done GCSE physics.
That was a Todd McFarlane comic pitch right there. It's like, yeah, they got 3 sets of eyes, man. One sees infrared.
You can smell crime.
Did anyone ever play Dawn of War?
Yeah.
The Tau game. Where you're a fire warrior. Oh no, I'm thinking of Fire Warrior.
Yeah, the Fire Warrior.
Like the RTS.
Yeah, there was a Dawn of War, the one after Dawn of War 2, when you could play as the Tau. I used to play as the Tau for a bit, and you could create a Vespid squad. So it's like 40K Age of Empires game, essentially. And you could have a Vespid squad, and the sound they made, when I see the model, I cannot not hear that like weird alien sound of them, like their wings and screech. It's really weird.
I think it's the last thing I wanted to say about these guys is that if we've been saying for ages, as much as we're not really into Tau, how they're deserving of a redesign on the range. I think with what they're doing at the moment, these guys could look really good.
Oh yeah,
a kind of waspish close combat troop, but not. And I hope they get some love, because it would be cool. I think the auxiliaries for Tau are one of the coolest things. So
I mean, that's definitely one of the things that Tau have going for them, is this cool, right? What should be, at least on the battlefield, is all these crazy different people they've recruited from across the galaxy. So yeah, having a really cool, diverse Tau army. Yeah, well, however you see it at the time. It sounded like these Vespids, they were just like, we were just waiting for someone to come along. So
take me off this rock.
Well,
Ah.
go on.
So, Matt, I think you've got a second Xenos as well you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I've got another dirty one. This one is called the Rack Gull. I think they are in a sketch in the 4th edition Warhammer 40K book. There's a picture that we're all looking at the moment, which is, I'm pretty sure, a fan-made drawing of one holding a heavy stubber. But essentially, they're very big Xenos race. They are marauding pirates in the Halo stars. So these are the races that live in the area of the galaxy, on the edge of the galaxy, where Lord Commander Macarius's army refused to go into. They're about 3 meters tall, and they are kind of a cross between a reptile and a mantis, which is quite cool. They have 8 limbs, and they are, as you can imagine, pretty fast, agile. They can kind of run. They run up walls. They run upside down. They rip people apart. They have heavy use of bionics. They have they live in a caste system, so they're kind of like insect reptiles, but they're huge. They have spaceships. They're an intelligent species, and they use bionics to the point where, as they age, they become more and more of a machine, almost in a mimic of the followers of the machine god. By the time some of these aliens die, they're almost purely machine, which is quite cool. It's kind of weird how they kind of copy the Imperial lore in that terms. But again, not much information about them, but they're kind of hinted at throughout the history of 40K, because they're just marauding pirates. They're not. I don't think they're ever going to have a range, but it's just kind of a background race.
Yeah,
Cool.
this image that you've shown us, Matt, looks a lot like. I mean, it's full on alien xenomorph, right? It's kind of, but with
Still
extra legs.
He's still got a Tommy gun though.
Yeah,
like a kind of a gangster insect.
Yeah,
like.
imagine a xenomorph with an extra legs and a Tommy gun, and you're basically there, mixed with the head of Venom from Spider-Man.
It is quite cool that there are just like, the hints to this like much larger galaxy just going on. It's just like occasionally you bump heads with these guys that are just getting on with their own war. This fucking gangster aliens or what, and the Feral or whatever they were called, cruising around getting onto their own shit. So it's nice to know that there is this larger universe. There's still life out there beyond the Tau universe.
Yeah,
I think we can agree is that they all need to be purged.
That's why I wanted to just mention the Urgals, which, although they aren't an intelligent species, they're almost like a pet, specifically for Dark Eldar. But there are actually tons of Xenos races in the 40K lore, and they are creeping into the model range. Obviously, the Urgals are in Blackstone Fortress, but they have had models since 2000. They've been in the Dark Eldar ranges. Yeah,
they're really cool models as well.
Yeah, they're so weird. And the description is quite frightening. The way they're like super apes. And they smell with those weird holes in their head, and they just look so weird. The models are really cool, and the really old models are really cool. Yeah, all this like Blackstone Fortress, all these avenues that Games Workshop are creating, where they just have 1 or 2 models. They don't have a whole range of them, but they just kind of creep in the background. It's very cool.
I think what you're saying, Matt, is we're probably going to have to do another minor Xenos episode at some point.
I think we might need to, yeah.
Okay, so in this last part of the show, we'd like to do a little something we call the Lords of Lore, which is a quiz between Welshie and Matt to find out who is the Lord of Lore. And this week, we've been talking about aliens and stuff, but I thought about, what about the alien animals and things? They never get a nod. We never see much of them. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a quiz about some of the flora and fauna of the 40K universe. Okay, you guys ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
Okay. A grox is a large beast from the Solomon system, but what does it resemble?
Cow.
A large crocodile with a crocodile with a large mouth. B, a dinosaur with a ridge of spikes on its back. C, a bipedal lizard with 2 mouths. Or D, a monkey with scales.
B.
Yeah.
B for Matt. Dinosaur with spikes, ridges on its back.
Like a kind of cow shape, like a quadruped. I don't think it's got a crocodile face.
Okay,
Hey,
so
maybe
you're
it
both
does.
saying
I'll
B.
go A. I'll go A for.
A for Welshie. Well,
Yeah.
Matt is right. I'm afraid it is the dinosaur-shaped thing. It's pretty cool, actually. They've got some cooler. I think some models have been produced. I saw some cool one, or even
cool.
that, or someone had at least made one that I saw, which is pretty cool. Okay, what is a grinx? Is it A, a rat-type creature that's found on space haulers? B, a small scarab-type beetle that eats metal? C, a cat that's used to channel psychic energy? Or D, a poisonous gecko-like lizard?
I'm going to C.
I was going to go C as well.
That's the cat.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 C's. That's a point for both of you. It is. It's we've seen them in. It's what
Is
the
that the
crazy
Eldar?
Eldar.
It's
Yeah,
what
the
that
Eldar
Eldar-
lady's
yeah,
got
yeah,
one. Yeah. So this next question is, how many types of squigs can you name? There are 9 in the orc lore. So there's lots and lots of different kind of squigs, but they all come under 9 different categories. Can you name any of them?
I can name them all.
Okay, let's hear it.
All
Matt.
of them. Okay.
Yeah, all of them.
All right.
All right. Well, do you want to chime in? Do you want to try to get some in before Matt
Yeah.
gives us his?
Okay. Dead. Dead. Dead.
Those are only the good squigs, Matt. I can name some, I think.
Go on then.
Buzz squig.
Oh, that's one. Yeah, that's a
Those are the
point.
ones that are in the Buzz Hive bombs.
Okay.
You've got
Yeah, buzz squig is a type of squig.
food
So-
squig. Those are the ones that they eat.
There are edible squigs. Yeah.
Is there bitey squig? Is that what they're called? The ones that they have like on the end of chains, chompy or bitey?
No, I can't really
Attack
give you
squig.
No, I mean it's in
Did you
this.
say
right
bomb
ballpark.
squid?
No
that's
bomb
one.
squigs.
Bomb squig.
No,
Oh, I thought
no bomb squigs.
It's
no.
not one.
No, afraid not.
Grenade squig.
No, nothing like that.
Ammo squig.
There are
No.
loads that that don't look anything like the kind of spherical shape, aren't there? Like
Yeah,
the
there's all
buzz
flying
squigs
ones
basically
and
just
stuff.
look like.
I've
look
always
like
thought what are
wasps.
those whoopee cushion things that kids sit on and jump around on?
What? A whoopee
Oh,
cushion?
is there like a
No, not-
floaty squig? One that
Not a
floats?
whoopee cushion, like that
Oh, like a
child's
bouncy
toy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
bouncy.
God.
That's
What the
what I
fuck
always
are those
imagine.
Space
a squid.
hopper.
A space hopper.
Space hopper.
Yeah.
It's an orc
Yeah.
space hopper.
With teeth inside. Yeah, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are the only
alright.
ones that stick in my head.
Okay, cool. Well, the 9 different types are edible, musical, a hair squig, a medical squig, a parasite hunting squig, face-eating squig, which is war squigs, pet squig, buzz squig, and paint squig.
Oh, nice.
Paint
So, yeah.
squig.
Yeah, so those are the types. But you got 2 points that round, Welshie, so
Oh,
well done.
excellent.
All right. Which one of these is not a snake on Catachan? Is it A, the flying swamp mamba, B, the sulking shadow serpent, or C, the coiling death cobra, or D, the Catachan black viper?
I'm
What-
going C. C is not
I-
a snake.
The
I think
coiling
it's-
death cobra for Welshie.
B.
B. That's a point for Matt. It was the sulking shadow serpent, or something I pulled out of my arse earlier. Okay.
That sounds painful.
Oh, yeah. You need
Okay.
a medical squig.
I do. I better get some medical squig on that high post haste.
Pop one
He
up
licks.
there.
Yeah, he's just got like a big tongue rather than teeth. He just licks your arsehole. All right. How does the great barking toad defend itself? Does it A, explode in a cloud of poisonous gas? Does it B, overextend its jaw to the point where it can swallow a man whole? Does it C, spit toxic acid? Or does it D, extrude hallucinogenic toxins from its bark-like skin?
I think it's B.
I also think it's B. The opening its mouth really wide.
Open
one.
in its mouth. I'm afraid you're both wrong on that. It explodes in a cloud of gas, killing it and everything around it in a kilometer.
Stupid.
In a kilometer. Yeah, it's crazy. Apparently it can even get inside Space Marine armor. It's one of the Catachan beasties.
It must be
Bile's
tiny,
got
then.
some of that in his gun.
Yeah.
Okay. How long after being bitten by just one heretic ant does it take before you die? 1 hour, 1 minute, 12 hours, or a day?
1 minute.
1 minute.
I'll go 1 minute as well, if it's that
1
heretical.
I'm afraid it was 1 day. It's only one. If you get bit by more, you die instantly. So there you go. Okay, this is a quick fire round. So I want you guys first. I have to take your first answer. And how many of the main Space Marine chapters are named after animals?
10.
15.
It's 4.
Oh,
Wow.
I know, that's what I thought as well. I thought that was going to be way more. It's lunar wolves, space wolves, salamanders, and raven guard.
Oh, the main.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry,
I should
yeah,
listen
no.
to main. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, so what did you guys both say?
10.
Matt was closer.
Matt was closest. So Matt gets points. So it's 3 points each, neck and neck. Our arm bulls are long-armed insect-like creatures with pincer mouths and ape-like stances. But where are you most likely to find one? Is it A, lurking in the canopies of trees, B, partially submerged in swamps, C, burrowing in the sand, or D, lurking in the sewers of a hive city? And there's actually a model for this.
D.
D, lurking in hive cities.
Yeah.
I'm afraid not. It was C, burrowing in the sand.
What's that doing on a Blackstone Fortress?
I don't know. It's a.
I thought it was a Necromunda model. It's a Blackstone Fortress model, is it?
It's a Blackstone Fortress model. They've apparently been tried to be domesticated several times by the Imperium because they make these They're really good at like burrowing, and but so they take them to planets and set them out, and they'll be like, "Go make us a wicked underground base," and then they just take over the planet and fuck everything up. And there's been a number of like notable battles, just like with these other alien races we've been talking about. Like these guys are troublemakers.
Right.
Okay, so this is the last question. So whoever gets this point wins. You're both neck and neck at the moment. So parasites that drain psychic energy are called A, psygrubs, B, mindworms, C, telekinetic larvae, or D, brain bugs.
B.
I thought it was A.
Mindworms. Okay, A from Matt, B from Welsh. I can tell you, Matt, you are the winner of this week's Lords of Lore, pipping it right at the end there with the 4th point. Psygrubs are a kind of parasite that can be used to store. They can feed off other psychers' energy, and then you can take it and, I don't know, crack it open and take a swig of its insides to get some of its psychic goodness out of it. So, yeah, and some interesting creatures from across the 40K landscape there.
I did want to mention. I always remember there was a Gaunt's Ghost novel where they were on a planet and they were moving around on cow-sized snails, which I thought was fucking great. And like instead of cows, they had the fields were full of these giant snails that they were like milking.
Oh, snail milk!
Nice.
That sounds gross.
What a high point to end the podcast on.
Yeah, well, go on in. Next time you're cooking up your cornflakes or whatever, enjoy it with a nice glass of snail milk. Get some from the garden there. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.